Where is Fred? There once was a lovely fluffy white caterpillar called Fred. Look at how lovely and fluffy he is. You can stroke him if you like. Fred was a very happy little caterpillar. He loved playing games. His favourite game was hide and seek. It was a game he was very good at. Here he is hiding in a pile of cotton wool balls. Here he is floating on a cup of frothy milk. And here he is sitting on a fluffy white sheep. Indeed, when you are a small, juicy caterpillar, it is a very good idea to stay hidden. But Fred could not spend all his time hiding. In fact, he, like all caterpillars, spent most of his day eating leaves. Lovely, shiny, green leaves. Here is Fred on a bush. You can see the problem. But was Fred frightened? Not in the least. Then, one day, Fred looked up from a leaf and saw something he had never seen before. And what he saw made him very frightened indeed. Gerald the Crow.
Hurrah!
Yikes, said Fred, and off he scarpered as fast as his little legs could carry him. Gerald flew off after Fred. On the high street, he came across a smart-looking woman in a navy suit and a lovely fluffy white necklace.
Have you seen a fluffy white caterpillar?
Squawked Gerald.
I want him for my lunch.
Sorry, replied the woman. I'm afraid I haven't.
Are you sure?
Asked Gerald, examining her necklace, which seemed somewhat familiar. Quite sure, said the woman.
Bother,
said Gerald, and off he flew. In the park, Gerald spotted a man with grey straggly hair and lovely fluffy white eyebrows that joined in the middle.
Have you seen a fluffy white caterpillar?
Croaked Gerald.
I want him for my lunch.
No, replied the man. I'm afraid I haven't.
Are you sure?
Asked Gerald, examining the man's eyebrows, which seemed strangely familiar. Quite sure, said the man.
Drat,
said Gerald, and off he flew. At the nursery, Gerald spotted a little girl in a pretty pink dress and a lovely fluffy white hairband.
Have you seen a fluffy white caterpillar?
Called Gerald.
I want him for my lunch.
Oh no, replied the little girl. There are no caterpillars here.
Are you sure?
Asked Gerald, poking a pointy claw at the girl's hairband, which seemed remarkably familiar. Quite sure, said the girl.
Double drat,
said Gerald. And off he flew. At the fairground, Gerald met a man sporting a red velvet waistcoat and a lovely fluffy white moustache.
Have you seen a fluffy white caterpillar?
Shrieked Gerald.
I want him for my lunch.
Terribly sorry, replied the man. I'm afraid I haven't.
Are you sure?
Asked Gerald, looking intently at the man's moustache, which seemed extremely familiar. Quite sure, said the man.
I don't believe this,
shouted Gerald.
Where is Fred?
Now, Fred, who up until this moment had managed to stay absolutely still, started to think how terribly clever he had been to hide from this ridiculous bird. And as he looked at Gerald, hopping furiously from one foot to the other, he began to giggle. And as he giggled, he wriggled. And as he wriggled, his lovely fluffy white hairs tickled the man under his nose, and the man, After some considerable struggle, sneezed.
Tissue!
Fred, so small and so light, was tossed. Up, up, up into the air.
I've got you! Screeched Gerald triumphantly, swooping towards the helpless caterpillar.
At that very moment, a gust of wind caught Fred and lifted him higher and higher into the sky. Flapping his wings furiously, Gerald chased him. But the caterpillar was nowhere to be seen amongst all those lovely, fluffy white clouds. Gerald searched and searched, but he could not find Fred.
Where is Fred?
When finally the wind dropped, the crow flapped back down to the ground, dizzy and despondent.
Where is Fred?
He muttered miserably, looking all around. But there was no sign of Fred. No sign at all. Gerald bowed his head in despair. And as he looked down, he noticed that he was now wearing the most lovely, fluffy white scarf. It was beautiful and soft, and he found it cosy and comforting to wear.
I wonder where it came from,
he thought. Gerald was not the cleverest of birds. Gerald was so fond of his new scarf that he was keen to show it off to the other crows. They all admired it, even though one or two of them found it curiously familiar. Until one day, Gerald looked down to discover that the scarf had vanished. And in its place, to his delight, he found a lovely, fluffy, white bow tie.